My daughter started working for me at the age of 14. She was doing data entry for bookkeeping. She was also doing some tax prep work. Today, I want to share with you about hiring your kids and why it's so important to hire your kids. You can hire your kids and pay them up to $15,000 per year per child. And you can pay them to do anything that you would pay someone else to do. So you can hire your kids to help clean your home office. You can have them go with you to be a personal assistant. I've done that many times with my kids. I'll take them with me to events. They'll help me pass out business cards, sell books, introduce themselves to people, help connect, do marketing. I even had one of my children actually invite people on Facebook to a Facebook group. So, and she was 6 years old at the time that she did that. You can also hire your children to be models. And that is one of the things that I'm doing with my little baby, Amelia. So I'm actually teaching people how to hire their kids and utilize their children in their marketing and advertising, and that be a tax deduction. So you could hire models to work for your business. And a lot of people do that. They post things on social media with models. You can do the exact same thing if your business is, in the process of doing advertising, right? So the minimum age that you can hire your kids, it's actually been held up in court as precedent at age 7, but there's no minimum age. And like I said, I am hiring Amelia to actually be a model for our company, and I'm going to use her pictures to post and help people understand how to hire your kids. So there's no minimum age. The maximum age that you would want to really pay your kids, unless they are truly working for you full time and helping you in your business, which, obviously that's the goal regardless of what age they are. But when they turn 18, there has to be FICA taxes that are withheld, and you also have to withhold unemployment taxes. But if they're under the age of 18, there's no FICA, there's no federal, no state taxes, no unemployment taxes. None of that has to be done if they're under the age of 18 and they're making less than $15,000 a year. So that is the major benefit of hiring your kids at the age, in between 0 and 18. Again, it's been held up in court as far as age 7, so we know at precedent that it definitely can be done there. And you could utilize them, again, for things like modeling. It could be for going with you to events. It could be to shred paper. It could be to help clean up your office. So you would pay them what you would pay anyone else to do that work, or less. You obviously don't want to pay them $150 an hour to go with you to an event when you would pay someone else $25 an hour to go with you to an event. So just keep that in mind. And as far as paying them, so we talked about the $15,000 a year. The one caveat that you have to do is that there has to be payroll tax returns, and you have to issue W-2s. So that is something that we can definitely help you with. But you would pay them, transfer the money to their bank account, whether that be from a check or actually just transferring it. They do have to have an actual bank account that you're transferring that money to. It can also have your name on it. That's perfectly fine. And then what they do with that money is theirs. So whether they spend that on education, or whether it's spent for vacations, or whether it is used to put into a Roth, it doesn't matter, what happens to that money after it is transferred into their bank account. So just keep that in mind. Kids are very expensive, and so they can do with it as they please. You just don't want to transfer that money back into your bank account. So just keep that in mind. The benefit of it, so you understand, based on your tax bracket, let's say you paid your child $15,000 a year. You have one child, you pay them $15,000 a year. You're in a 22% tax bracket. So that $15,000 is times 22%. And let's just say that you are also, in a state that actually has taxes that you have to pay as far as income taxes. The $15,000 would save you $3,300 in federal taxes, and let's say you were in a state that had 5% in state taxes, so that would save you another $750. So almost $4,000 to be able to pay one child, right? So Think of that in multitudes. If you had 3 or 4 children, I have 7 children. I paid all of them to work for me. And so, 7 times 15, that is very substantial. And then you'd multiply that by your tax bracket. So the higher your tax bracket, obviously the more money it's going to save you to hire your kids. If your child has another job, that does not mean that you can't pay them. You could opt to pay them less based upon what they're making with their job. So to get to that point where you're doing the $15,000 a year between the job and yourself, or you can opt to pay them more and you would just file a tax return on them. So the only reason why I say that you can pay them $15,000 a year and you don't have to pay taxes on it is that there's no tax return. So the standard deduction is $15,000 per child. And as long as your child is making that $15,000 a year, you do not have to file a tax return on them. If in fact they make over $15,000 a year, then you would file a return. The majority of people would want you to file a tax return as a child. And the reason why is because if they work for someone else, there's going to be taxes taken out, and typically they're going to get that money back. And so you would want to file a tax return on them anyway. And so you are welcome to pay them more than $15,000 if you wanted to do that. My daughter started working for me at the age of 14. She was doing data entry for bookkeeping. She was also doing some tax prep work. And so I started training her and teaching her, and obviously I paid her more than that $15,000 a year. So if they're involved in your business and helping you, you don't have to stop there. You just have to start withholding some taxes. And you can hire as many kids as you want. So, again, I have 7 children. So only 2 of those are under the age of 18 now. And I only paid those 2 to work, do some type of marketing for our company. The others, actually 3 of our older children actually work full-time at our tax practice. So I pay them directly through OTB tax as well. That leads me to a very important point. You do not want to pay your children through an S Corp if you have one. Now, S Corps to me are by far the best entity structure. An LLC treated as an S Corporation, but you don't want to pay your kids through the S Corp. What you want to do is pay them through a Schedule C. And the reason why is that anyone that you pay through an S Corp, you're required to withhold FICA taxes. You don't want to pay FICA taxes on your children. That's 15.3%, 7.65% for them, 7.65% for you. So in order to bypass that, you would pay a management fee from your S Corp down to you personally, and then you personally would then pay the kids, and you'd hire them to do the things that you would want them to do in your business. So keep that in mind. Don't pay them through an S Corp. You want to pay them through a Schedule C. And for those of you that don't know, you can actually still keep your child tax credit even if you pay your kids. So the child tax credit has nothing to do with paying your kids. That's just an extra bonus on top of it. So paying your kids is going to be at your tax bracket. That's going to save you substantial income there. And then you also have the child tax credit, which is $2,000 per child. As far as paying your kids either as a paycheck or a subcontractor, you would never want to pay your children as a subcontractor. And the reason why is because if you make more than $600 as a 1099, you are required to file a tax return. So you obviously don't want to have your children file a tax return unless it's actually going to be beneficial for them. So if you pay them as a paycheck, as long as they make up to $15,000 or less than $15,000 a year, then there's no tax return that has to be filed and there would be no taxes. As opposed to if you pay them as a subcontractor, they would have to actually file a tax return and pay 15.3% self-employment taxes. So you don't want to do that.